Hey guys, what's up? Unrested here. One more video where I'm stuck inside the house. And once again, a bit of a negative one. I know my last video was a bit of a rant. And there's actually a reason behind why I'm going to go ahead and throw this video in for this month as well. Starting in November, for the whole month of November, Give Me a Break, Give Me a Flake Man and I have decided we're going to do a series of positive-only videos. They have to be 100% positive. They can be about Japan, about our life, about whatever, but they're going to be upbeat and positive. I don't think October is really the month to start that, as October tends to rotate around Halloween and kind of darker stories and stuff like that. So hence I'm going to throw my last little, I guess, somewhat negative. I guess it's a bit of a learning experience for myself and for those of you who are thinking about working in Japan. And that's kind of what this is going to revolve around. Why I quit my last job. Why I pretty much walked out on it and, you know, gave two middle fingers up and said, fuck off. There are some jobs you will work in Japan where this will happen. You may have remembered a couple of videos past. I remember one time Tikio Sam and I did a series in Majiaba Yatsura where we just talked about the worst jobs we had ever worked. And it's not that we're going through job after job after job, but oftentimes in Japan you're working multiple jobs at the same time to fill your hours. You need either 35 hours a week or a certain amount of a salary to get your work visa, and oftentimes him and I were both working these types of jobs before we have our current career choice, and I myself doing art and stuff like that, and him doing translating. Before that we did work the many different English teaching jobs, and even now, like I've said before on the past, I teach part-time English, and I still do that. I found a new job doing that, but I want to talk about my last part-time one. It really turned into a bad situation, and it's something that could easily happen to you too, and I kind of want to tell my own tale for you so that you yourself, if you experience this, you're kind of like, am I going crazy? Should I quit? Is this normal in Japan? And yes and no. Yes and no is kind of the answer. Is this normal in Japan? For the most part, when you teach at an international school or a school which revolves around English, or having gaijin teachers, or some sort of way of introducing a Western influence, they take on the fact that they realize gaijin are not going to act 100% Japanese. We did not grow up in this culture. We did not grow up with the manners and customs and traditions of Japanese culture. So for them to expect us to follow every little whim and bow of the way they do things is obviously ridiculous. And they totally realize that. For the most part, every Japanese company you will ever work at, some are owned by gaijin, so of course they totally understand there's going to be a lot of Western influence. But for the most part, if a company is hiring a gaijin, they understand that there will be some aspect of quote-unquote gaijin-ness that will come along with that, of course. You know, for example, you know, our Japanese may not be perfect. We might not always use the proper, polite Japanese when speaking to a senpai or when speaking to our boss. And they're not going to, for the most part, they're not going to shout down at you or talk down to you for making those kind of mistakes, because they realize how easy that is, because they themselves can see themselves doing the reverse, as in using too blunt or too rude of language in English, which can easily happen. For example, if you don't have a lot of words and you just say no, it can sound very blunt and very harsh, where it's not really meant to be. But a Japanese person who doesn't have a lot of English, which is very common in Japan, it being one of the lowest English learning countries in the entire world, happens. And you as a gaijin too should heed that and be aware of that and realize there's times where communication is not harsh, it's just minimal. But that's not the point, and that's not neither here nor there. This is about my experience. So I worked at this job for 3 years, and it started off as a job I took because I knew that they were having some problems in the past with going through a lot of teachers. Their preschool was doing pretty bad. They had 8 students only, which is not good for a preschool in a English youchien, that is kindergarten, because how it works is pretty much your large amount of preschoolers you want to go ahead and garner, because they follow up through the next 3 years, which is usually how long an international kindergarten lasts. And so the large amount that you have in preschool, if they can follow through all 3 years, which they usually don't, some drop off, some go to other schools, some go to Japanese schools, you pretty much set yourself up for the next 3 years with those amount of students. So if you start with a huge amount and just a few drop off, then you still do really good each year following. If you start with a very small amount, by the time you get to K2, K1, K3, etc., you may be down to very few students. So that's the problem this school had. It was to the point that their K2 and K3, which is just pretty much kinder second year and kinder third year, were very, very small and put together into one class because they were so tiny. So I joined during this time. They had 8 students, and they had gone through something like 4 or 5 teachers in the last year. And they had told me some reasons why they had. For one, they either brought in people who weren't experienced with teaching young kids, they couldn't handle kids crying, or they can't handle the fact that you can't discipline them with words. Usually you have to do it via action or explaining it via showing them, like, if you take this toy and you hit this other kid, it is bad, you know, and you just have to do it like with gestures and stuff, because you can't literally sit down and be like, hey, listen up, this is really bad. And, you know, that takes the experience of actually having worked either a long time with small children or having small children of your own, which I, of course, have. If you don't know, I'm a father of a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, so I had already spent the last 3 or 4 years dealing with very small children. On top of that, I had already had 6 years of experience teaching kindergarten, so I came in. I'd like to say I came in experienced. I hope that's not, you know, over talking myself or being arrogant. So I came in, and yes, this school, I could tell because I had read the journals that the teacher before me had written, and not only did she seem like a bad teacher, and these journals, mind you, are from the teacher to the parent, and I have to continue writing them. It's open for everybody to see. She didn't even have proper English. She had come from the Philippines, no offense to Filipino people, this woman, but she was from the Philippines and could not speak proper grammar or English, and the things were just all over the place, and parents had obviously complained, and no one had joined the school during that time, so their students had dwindled down to only 8 for preschool, which, like I said, is a very bad situation. In my first year there, I had gained 10 more students, so we'd gone from 8 to 18. The next year I followed up with another 18 brand new students, and in my third and final year there I had followed up with another 18 students, so that's doing pretty decent. It was a very small place. It was out in the middle of the country, and we're talking countryside Kobe, and so that's a pretty decent haul for a guy who just joined on the team and was doing demo lessons for the first time for them. And they had their own system. They had the way they wanted it taught. I followed that to a Q. They had a certain, what would you call it, curriculum and set of alphabetic learning cards that they wanted me to use, and I had no problem using those. And apparently the teachers before me did not want to use those. I will say I don't think it was really a very good system, but it was what this company wanted, and in Japan that's how it works. You do what the company wants. You don't try to run all kinds of new great efficient ideas past them, because oftentimes they are set in their ways. And to follow in with the wa or harmony of the workplace, you fall into line and you do what you're told. So that's what I did, and it worked out really well. It was pulling in a lot of students very quickly. Mind you, this was like edutainment, as I call it. I don't think they were really that great at teaching English there. They weren't really that great at having a system for teaching English, but they had their system, they called it their system, and they wanted you to follow that, and that's what I did. The owner was happy with that. Everyone else there seemed pretty happy with me. And the woman who I worked with in mine class, she was the Japanese equivalent to what I do. She pretty much handled most of the communication with the little kids, because most of them could only handle a little bit of Japanese at most. I mean, they had barely developed their Japanese speaking skills, let alone English. They were 1.5 to 3, so we're talking very young children. And the first year was kind of, I could kind of already feel a little bit of tension while I was there, but I just figured it was because they had just gone through a really harsh time with a bunch of other teachers quitting. They had said after this one Filipino teacher quit, they had 4 or 5 more teachers come in between that, and they had quit like after only 2 weeks of working there. They just hadn't even shown back up again. So I was just like, dang it. So they've gone through a rough time. You know, I'm just gonna play it cool and, you know, not try to cause any arguments or anything like that, which I usually don't. I usually just follow through with whatever I'm told. I don't really have a problem unless it's absolutely absurd. And that's what I did. I just tried to be as helpful as I could. I tried to learn everything as fast as I could and do it without being told. For example, how to set up lunches as quick as possible, change diapers as quick as possible, get kids to the park as quick as possible, get them ready for pickup as quick as possible. If you can learn what people are already doing and how the flow of the system already works, adapt to it without having to constantly be prompted or ask questions, that goes a long way in the Japanese workplace. So that's what I did. That's usually my policy anyway. Try to be as helpful as I can. One big thing I always think about when I'm working, especially in these kind of jobs, because they move very quickly, little kids literally running everywhere, is always being ready to go to the next thing. Always looking for something to do, always something I can prepare, always something I can do to move the day along quicker. I like to stay busy. I don't like to, time to lean, time to clean kind of guy. Looking for something to do. So I'm always trying to learn what's going on with the business or the education system or whatever they've got going on there, and follow through and continue it to go as efficient as possible. So that's just the way I work. And so that's what I was doing, and it seemed to work out okay. There was a couple times where I felt like I was like, wow, they're really kibishi at this place. They would have certain things like they decided no Wi-Fi or anything in the internet in the school because they were afraid teachers would look at their phones the whole time, which nobody really ever did. No one ever sat there looking at their phone or brought in a computer and looked at that. They said they had had some trouble in the past with people using iPads. That didn't seem to be a problem at the time, but it also made things very archaic. Like you had to, if you wanted to print out anything or get any worksheets ready or download any sort of source from the internet, you could only use the boss's office, which he was almost always in there, so you couldn't really ever do anything. You had to pretty much make up everything yourself if you wanted any extracurricular activities or things that you wanted to download or print out, or you had to do them at home on your own time, which kind of sucks because you're not getting paid. But whatever. The other weird thing that was really strict policy was everything had to be unplugged at the end of the night. Apparently this guy was really stingy on spending anything on electricity. He would do everything, I mean, even unplug like the refrigerator, so you never had a freezer, you never had a refrigerator that worked, because I don't know if you know, but when you unplug one, it takes it like almost 8 hours to get frozen again, so you never really had an ability to bring any kind of lunch that could possibly spoil during the day. That kind of sucked. On top of that, like, he would constantly unplug the computer. It would take ages to warm back up because it was an ancient machine. He still believed in using like cassette players and stuff like that, which is just absolutely Stone Age material at this point. The songs he would choose would be like just ancient songs. But I mean, mind you, this guy was like old school Japanese stoic samurai-esque type Bushido blade guy. If you had a problem with anything, he probably would have just told you like gaman suru, or shogunai, like push through it, or nothing can be done, just do it, ganbatte ne. So, whatever. Okay, I understand this guy. So, he's not really the type of guy you can go to for help. You can't really be like, hey, I'm really having this problem. He's just going to be like, push through it, son. So, first year, so-so, not so bad. Second year, we have a new sensei join, and there's a bit of an incident one time. The only time I ever got, I guess, in trouble, and I still to this day question why this would ever be my fault, but whatever. We are taking pictures for a yearbook at the end of the year, which we make, and our camera decides to stop working completely because the guy never buys new technology. He's really, really stingy with buying anything. So it's like a 3 megapixel camera in the year 2013 or 14, whatever we're in. And I'm like, okay, look, let's just use my cell phone for right now, take the picture, upload it, and then print it out later so that we get this book done. So that's what we do, and nobody seems to have a problem with that. They realize that we don't have a working camera, yet we still have this project due for the parents who are going to pay for it, so let's do what we can to get this done. I don't think about it any other way than that as well. Well then, some point during the year, the owner comes up to me and he's like, Scott Sensei, I hear you have pictures of kids on your phone. And I was like, yeah, and I told him the whole situation. I was like, yeah, well, the camera stopped working. I started to take the pictures myself, upload them, so that he's like, no, we do not do that. If the parents found out, they would be very angry. And I'm like, well, okay, so are we going to buy a new camera, or what do you want me to do? And he was like, you need to delete those pictures. And I'm like, well, I mean, they've already been deleted a long time ago. I don't obviously save these pictures on my phone once they've been uploaded. You upload them to iTunes. Mind you, he doesn't have any idea, iPhoto, not iTunes. He doesn't have any idea how technology works. So I'm trying to explain to him, look, as soon as they get uploaded from my phone, you choose delete or keep, and I hit delete all the time because literally it would have been so many pictures, it would have made it difficult for me to upload songs and podcasts on my 16 gigabyte phone? Gigabyte, yeah. And this just blows his mind. He can't figure it out. Like, he's just like, well, just don't use... I'm like, okay, cool. So can you buy a new camera then? Like, and he just looks like pissed, like, oh, how dare you ask me to buy new stuff for you? And like, why would you deserve that? So I'm just like, whatever, man. Okay, fine. You know what? I'm gonna let another teacher take care of photos because otherwise I'm just gonna get in trouble for it. And also I find out that the person who told on me was my own partner that I'm working with in my class. She goes behind my back, tells the boss. And so I confronted her about that. I was just like, yo, dude, what's up, man? You trying to get me fired? Like, and she fucking pulls the tears out, like left and right. Just... So again, I get in trouble for this. It's like, Scott, you should not confront other people with, infighting and stuff like that. And it's like, well, dude, I mean, I'm going to confront somebody if they didn't come to me first with a problem and go to you instead. And this is a warning sign right here. If you see this happen at the place that you're working at, right away, red flags should go up. And they kind of did for me. I was kind of just like, all right, you know what? I can work past this. I can get over this. Maybe she was afraid to come to me or something, or afraid to talk to me about it. I'm just going to let it slide. Whatever. Fuck this. And so, and in their defense, I guess, there really is laws. There's very, very, very strict protection laws about publishing pictures of kids from schools. Like if I went on Facebook and just started posting all these pictures of the kids from the school, I could get in a huge amount of trouble, and understandably so. I don't think I have any right to be posting their pictures all over my public Facebook, which I've never done, of course. I don't think any of you who follow me on Facebook have ever seen such a thing because it doesn't exist. Mind you, I was dealing with a problem where the camera was broken. So I confront her about that. This assistant, quote unquote, breaks down and starts crying in front of me because I confronted her. She doesn't even have like a good reason why she went behind my back to do it. She's just like, it was really hard for me to think about telling him this. And then he comes over and he's like, oh, you should have never confronted her about this. And I'm just like, why not? I mean, if she's going to tell, I'm going to go ahead and ask her why. Am I not allowed to do that? And so that leaves me kind of like everybody looking at me like, Scott is such an asshole. So, maybe I am, whatever. But honestly, if someone goes behind my back and tells the boss something, I will confront them later. It's just who I am. That's one gaijin aspect of me. Probably in most Japanese places, I would say the average Japanese person probably wouldn't cause any kind of ruckus over that or bring it up. But in this case, the gaijin part of me overran my assimilation into Japanese culture, and I confronted her. So, forgive me. Anyway, looking past that, we get into the next year. And I'm back with the partner I had from the first year. She's always kind of a grumpy lady, always really grumpy. I always figured she was just grumpy because she was a single mom dealing with a very hard situation. So I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I said, you know what? I don't know what it's like to be a single mother, working on this salary, trying to pay for a kid, going to school. On top of that, her kid was a gaijin, which I have, of course, no judgment for. I am a parent in Japan with gaijin children, well, half children. I guess, okay, so no, her kid's a half, okay, because she's Japanese. Her husband was, like, Jamaican, I think. And so it would be, but if I, for some reason, decided to up and leave my wife, which would be horrible, life would be very hard for her because people would put a lot of judgment on her, seeing as the parent wasn't here. In Japan, that's a very taboo thing. Like I said, I myself don't put that kind of judgment on anybody because I think that's wrong, but in Japan, it happens. So be it, okay? So I just thought, you know what, I need to have some sympathy. She's going through a hard time because of this, and on top of it, she's got to pay for everything herself with her salary, which tends to not be very big for this type of job. Well, the third year I'm working with her, she just becomes, like, angry every day about everything. Like, she's constantly looking for something for her to get angry about or yell at me about. For instance, let me just give you an example. There was this little kid, obviously I'm not going to use any kids' names from this, but this kid had a notorious reputation for biting other kids. And she would constantly be on me. She'd be like, he bit a kid yesterday, so you need to really be careful. And when he would bite these kids, I wasn't there. It was usually at their playtime in the afternoon when I had already left. And like 3 separate times when I had not been there, I left at 2:30 noon every day. It was the afternoon, late afternoon, almost evening time that this had happened when they had these playtimes together with all the classes. It's kind of chaotic, mind you. It is kind of hard to keep your eye on it, so I've got to give them that. But anyway, that was the situation. He had bit them, and every time I would show up for the next day after this had happened, she'd be like, "You really need to keep an eye on him. He's biting kids." And I'd just be like, okay, did it happen on my shift? Did I not notice it? And she'd be like, "Well, no, but it happened last night. And you need to be more careful." Like, I had somehow affected this happening, like it had been my fault. And I was just kind of like, okay, you know, maybe she's just really pissed off about this. Because it does tend to be a huge issue in Japan when one kid bites another kid. Usually what they have to do is ask the other parent when they come to pick them up to stay around and apologize to the other one. Mind you, these are just little kids. And unless they break the skin, nothing really brutal happens when they bite. And most times these kids aren't biting that hard that they break the skin. But it's, you know, it's still, okay, so I understand why she's upset. This is annoying for her to have to wait for the other parent to come and apologize to the other. It puts her in a bad situation. And, you know, of course, all the blame shoots back to the person who was on duty, which was her. So I'm just like, okay, I'll really keep an eye out for it. But I'm always getting yelled at for this, and I'm always kind of like, dude, okay, so when I'm on shift, it doesn't happen. But when I leave, it happens. But I'm still getting yelled at for it. This is kind of weird. Whatever, okay? Then I did an update later about this happening where she told me that I was scary to the kids. I made a whole video about this, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. But for some reason, she just said, this one parent said that you were scary. So you need to be really careful because our school is going to start to get a reputation where we're known as having scary gaijin at our school. And so I was a bit taken aback by this because I was like, what could I have done? Like, if you watch any videos of me with my kids, how I act with my own children, I mean, unless they've done something super bad, I don't raise my voice to them. I don't know, in any way appear intimidating to them. My kids tend to laugh a lot. They're having a good time all the time. We have a fun time together. So it's kind of like, well, is there a situation or an incident that happened that made this kid scared? And she's like, well, no, I mean, nothing happened in class that she can pinpoint, and the kid didn't tell the mom about anything happening, but the kid said he was very scared of you. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's like my eyes or something, because I will admit there's been many times my eyes are these bright blue color. I don't know if the film can really show that, but it's sometimes very scary for little kids in Japan who've never seen bright blue eyes. I mean, imagine, you know, for some of them it's just kind of like this almost monstrous or demon type thing, like a guy with big bright gleaming eyes, and everybody else they've ever seen has just brown eyes. So, okay, I thought, okay, well, maybe like my eyes or something like that. She's like, no, she didn't say anything like that. You're just scary. Okay, so how do I fix this problem? She's like, you need to be more careful because we're going to start to get a reputation. So I guess our whole school's going to get a reputation. So I'm just like, all right, I guess I'll try to, I don't know, like, I thought about everything. I was like, is there ever a time like I used too strong of a voice or actions, like gestures or something? And I couldn't think about it, but I just made sure to be extra careful. Like, even if I felt like a kid was doing something wrong, instead of being like, hey, stop that right now, I would just be like, hey, guys, come on. Like, I would do it super calm after that, like as calm as I possibly could. And then after that, every day, you know, I had to do journals. I had to write to the parents, let them know what was going on. They realized that these journals are going to be half in English, half in Japanese, because every day you're sending them to a school that is an international school, and of course they probably speak a little bit of English themselves, or they can at least read a little bit of English themselves, so they're not going to be like, oh my god, what's all this crap in English, I can't read it. So my stuff always, one of my policies I learned very early is all your reports should just be positive, upbeat reports telling them how great their kid is. That's all I ever reported, just what great thing your kid did today. They're a fucking genius. They're amazing. They're doing amazing shit every day and blowing my mind every day. And that's how I did it. So I never got a complaint ever about any of my journal entries or anything. Not that I ever would. It's not really a common issue unless you, I don't know, started writing like love letters to the parents or something crazy like that. But one day she just stops letting me fill out the journals. It's maybe I'm just being paranoid, but it was really weird. Like, she just wouldn't let me, like, I would be like, oh, hey, do you want me to get this couple? Like, I'd always put like half aside and do half, and she'd do half. She'd be like, no, don't touch those. Don't touch those. I'd just be like, oh, so you don't want me to update it all today? And she's like, no, I'd rather you didn't write I'm just like, oh, okay. And from that day on, like, it was weird. It was like 2 or 3 weeks in this year, she just wouldn't let me touch him at all. I don't know what was going on. I didn't like check into and read the stuff that she was writing. I thought that was kind of an invasion of privacy. The only reason I had read the stuff that the gaijin teacher before me was because I had to catch up on where they were with learning stuff. So I don't know what was that. Maybe even now, maybe that's just me being paranoid, whatever. But it's a very strange thing for that to happen. It's very odd. So the next thing was we get to stuff for sports day. Hold on one second. Let me just tell my kids to chill out a bit. Hey guys, can you calm down just a little bit? Thank you. We're getting to sports day, and in sports day you have to make a lot of arts and crafts. Ours was a Jurassic Park theme, and we were making dinosaur stuff. So as soon as that got around, my big thing to do is go ahead and do all the arts and crafts for that. I had done it for the past 2 years, and of course going on the 3rd year I was going to do it again. If you've seen any photos or anything of the stuff I put on Facebook of the arts and crafts I made in the past, you probably understand the passion I have for it. I love doing arts and crafts for kids, making the stuff look as cool as I possibly can, giving it as much features as I possibly can. If I'm going to make a pirate ship, it's going to have sails, it's going to have those scallywag sails, it's going to have a tower for pirates to climb up to the top, and it's going to have all kinds of cool stuff. Okay, but I'll take a look after, okay? Okay, I'll take a look after, no worries. He's really excited about a new toy. And that's what I would do. I'd be really into it. I'd really make sure I got a lot of cool stuff on there, a lot of detail. Let me just close the door here. Hey guys, can you just chill out like a little bit? Just a tiny bit there. And I would put as much detail as I possibly could. And so, this time came again. We're at sports time and sports day, undokai as you call it. And I was ready to get into it again. It's Jurassic Park. I started making this Triceratops. And I spent most of the day making this one Triceratops thing, and I'm getting it ready. I'm like, so what do you think of this Triceratops for the Jurassic Park thing? She's like, oh, why did you already start that? And I'm like, whoa, it's September, and October we start sports day. That's really fast. Like you don't have a lot of time to practice. Like to get little kids ready to do running and jumping and sports and everything like that, you need to start practicing like a month in advance. I mean, at the very least 4 weeks minimum. And so you need to have all those things ready that they're gonna interact with, all the objects, all the arts and crafts. Like they have to run around like a little obstacle course and stuff. So you want to have that ready way ahead of time. So I was like, well, I want to have it ready when we start to practice. She's like, no, don't start working on any of that until October. And I thought, man, that's okay. That's not a lot of time, but because you usually have it around October 22nd, that's not a lot of days to go ahead and get your stuff ready. Because most of the time you're only working on it at school. You know, you're not doing it at your house. You're not taking these giant projects home. It would be very difficult to do. So anyway, I'm like, oh, okay, I'll start to. And so I wait until October starts. Well, during that time, she starts making all these other really bad arts and crafts. I wish I could put the photos here. They were so bad. They were just the most cringe-worthy, just horrible. Like her dinosaur was just like, she took a bunch of brown crumbled paper and kind of put it in the shape of a mouth and said that was a dinosaur. She'd show it to the kids. She'd be like, hey, look at this dinosaur. They'd be like, are? Nani kore? Nani kore? Which means like, what's this? What's this? You know, even them with their big imaginations, they're just like, I don't see how I'm supposed to see a dinosaur in this. I see a bunch of crumpled paper bags. And I was just like, oh, okay. And like, she asked my opinion. She's like, what do you think? I was like, oh, yeah. Oh, cool. You know, I'm not going to be like, what the fuck is this shit? I'm going to be as nice as I possibly can. I'm not going to be like, that's fucking brilliant. You're blowing me away. I was just kind of like, what? Like, and I don't know why she's doing this kind of this like weird passive aggressive thing, because she knows I've always done the arts and crafts for all these things. Many other classes would actually come to me to do their stuff for them because I always had ideas for it. I was always ready to do it. I loved to do it. I put a lot of passion into it. And then the next day I come in, like a couple days later, I come in and she's like, look, I made a volcano. And it's just like, literally like a cardboard box, and she's taken some like red cellophane and taped it to the top. And I'm just like, huh? Oh, a volcano. Really, this is what it looked like. It looked like someone had taken a cardboard box, just like done nothing to it. Like you can still see like the name of the company on the cardboard box, and done a really poorly tied bow and tied it to the top of the box. And in her mind, somehow this was a volcano. Maybe she was working on a very abstract basis, in which case, okay. but we're not doing expressionistic art for these kids. We're trying to make stuff look like what they would imagine it would look like. I was just kind of like, what? Okay, this is a volcano? Like, what the fuck? And why is she trying to do everything and get everything ready? Like, there's only a couple things we need to make for this. We needed to make a volcano, a dinosaur, and what looked like fake meat. Like, meat on a bone. Like you'd imagine a caveman eating. And she made those two, and it was just like a toilet paper roll with a brown paper bag wrinkled around it again. And she'd be like, look guys, pieces of meat. And they're just kind of like, Niku desu ka? Niku? Like, this is supposed to be meat? Oh, okay. I guess I can try and imagine that, little kids, whatever. So I'm just kind of like, okay, I guess I'm going to just do that one Triceratops and finish that up. And that's all I'm doing for this one. I guess she doesn't want me doing a lot of it. I don't get it. So we get to the point where it's October and I'm like, all right, so it's October. Today's October 1st. I'm going to get back started on the little Triceratops I'm building for this. And she's like, no, we don't need it anymore. She's like, can you just tear that box down? Like, mind you, this thing, literally, the only thing I had left to get on it was horns. That was it, like the 3 horns you would put on a Triceratops. I'm like, okay, you don't need the prop at all for the Undokai? She's like, no, we're not going to need that now. I'm going to make the last dinosaur too. And we won't be needing yours. So if you could just tear it down. And I was just kind of like, okay, should I just throw it away? And she's like, yeah, if you could just like break down the box and toss it out. We really don't need it anymore. And I had like painted this box green and everything, put spots all over it, put legs on it, put like a whole Triceratops face on it, give it a tail, spikes all over it. I thought it looked pretty cool. But she decided she didn't want it. I was like, all right, why not? So we don't need anything from me anymore. And any other future like project type stuff, she just makes sure I never do any of it. Like when I ask them, like, do you need any help with this? Or do you want me to get anything ready for this? And this is really odd. You don't usually do this. You usually do everything half and half as a group. You have your Japanese equivalent to you, the English teacher, and you handle one aspect and she handles the other, and you meld your arts and crafts and skills together to properly represent that class. So we're going to be going into this Undokai with like the worst decorations I've ever seen. I mean, they are dismal. They are depressingly bad. And I'm kind of starting to think like, man, I don't want to be represented by this stuff. It's kind of like, imagine you're going to represent some kind of company or store and they decide to pick out the most beat up products that have been battered and knocked around in the store for the longest time and expect you to go out there and be proud of that. You're just kind of like, can we use like the newest stuff on the shelf, not like get this stuff out of the back that's ancient and covered in dust and cobwebs? So that's kind of how I was feeling. But again, wow, harmony of the workplace. Got to work with it, man. Got to stick to it. Okay, gotta ganbatte, all right? Now, mind you, the whole time people were probably like, why didn't you tell the owner about this? But again, he would have just been like, well, that sensei has been here 10 years. She knows best what to do. You should listen to her. Gaman suru. Okay, keep pushing through it. Okay, all right. I can, whatever. It's art, whatever. I'm not paid to be an arts and crafts. I'm paid to be a representative of the English language and an international kindergarten teacher. That's what I will do. So what if my stuff isn't on display? So what if we have this crappy looking stuff? They are preschool kids, whatever. Okay, so then we get to one day where I come in and she says, so our new student, I forget what his name was. I shouldn't say any names anyway, so that's good. He went home and he had 3 scratches on his arm today. And I was like, okay. And mind you, this is the type of kid, he was like brand new, didn't play well with others, fought a ton, got in fights with all the kids, every grade level, even like K3, the really old ones. And I was like, okay, we got to be really careful then. We got to watch and make sure no one's getting in a fight with him, because I know he likes to roughhouse. And she's like, no, I think you did it. And I was like, what? Okay, can you show this to me? So she shows it to me on his arm, and it's tiny little pink scratches, like as if like if a kid was even just too itchy, he could make these scratches. And I was like, so I did this? And she's like, yes, you have scratched this child by holding him. And mind you, this kid never really needed to be held. He would pretty much play his ass off, fight a bunch with the other kids, and then crash way early after he ate lunch and not wake up till like 3 p.m. I left at 2:30, so I barely had any interaction with this new kid. I'm just kind of like, okay, can you ask the parent about that if they think the same? So she does, and guess what? The parent's like, no, he got in a fight with his brother. I saw, like, so the parent actually defended me. She's like, no, look, this kid fights with his brother all the time. I saw his brother give him these scratches. She's like, don't worry, I'm not worried about any of the teachers had done something like this. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, why would you go after me first? I'm your partner. If anything, I would think about defending my partner had the parent accused me. But in this case, the other teacher accused me and then tried to bring it up as an issue to the parent who then defended me. Now I'm starting to be like, what the fuck is going on this year? So another time this comes up, we've got another new kid. This kid is just the most insane crybaby kid you've ever met in your life. You get a few of these where the parent just never tells them no, never lets them leave their side, and they make this really kind of a coward of a kid. Hopefully later they grow up later in life and learn to, stand on their own 2 feet, but they come in crying, wailing. This kid must have cried for like the first 3 months he was there, and he was not just like, wah, I miss mom. He was the kind of kid who'd like turn into a noodle, fall on the floor, and be like, blah, 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 I don't want to sit in any chair, I'm gonna eat lunch, I'm gonna spit lunch and knock it on the floor. And you just be like, all right, man, all right, okay. I'm gonna let you freak out over here while I take care of the rest of the kids. You have fun. So like he would do stuff where like you would sit him down in a chair and he would literally like roll himself out of the chair and injure himself and slap himself on the floor over and over. And I mean, you just kind of like, all right, just let him lay on the floor. Don't bother. The best thing you can do with kids like that is just let them have a good cry it out, and just absolutely burn themselves out until they crash and go to sleep. That's usually what happens. So that's what I was doing with this kid. And one day I get a notification from her. She's like, we need to talk. I'm like, okay, what's up? And she's like, yesterday, his mom showed me 3 scratches on his back. And I was like, all right. And she's like, so I have a feeling this is when I wasn't in the classroom and it might have been something you did. And I'm like, what? Scratches? Wait, so the last time this happened, it turned out that the brother had done it. And then this time what happened, now mind you, you gotta realize like scratches, bruises, bites, bumps happen nonstop, bug bites. A kid can get a bug bite like right here on his eye and look like he was boxed in the face and like close his whole eye up, especially if they're allergic. So I'm just like, well, do you have any proof of this? Or like, do you think like this really would be me? She's like, well, how else could it have happened? I'm like, okay, well, you know how he sits in his chair every day? He just drops right out. Well, the back of these chairs are like this wood stuff that's all like kind of jagged old scratchy wood, because this guy will never buy damn new chairs. He's too cheap of a bastard to ever do that. So when these kids would wiggle themselves out of it, I'd always see scratches on their back afterward when I'd go ahead and change their diaper. And I'd be like, okay, so... And also, I don't know if you guys can see, my fingernails are bit down. I'm a horrible fingernail biter. So even if it would happen to be like an accident of me grabbing too hard, I don't know how you would grab by the back to get your claws in there, or like push their chest. Like, I don't know. So that's the only way I could have seen this been done. And I'm thinking about who actually has long nails. I look over at hers, and her nails are all like fucking prissy little pink nails covered in, nail polish and everything, and long as fuck. So I'm just kind of like, well, if anybody's gonna be scratched up, I'm looking at you. But I'm not going to say that, because guess what? I think when you have a partner and you work with a partner at a school, the first thing you think about is how can I work well with that partner, defend that partner, and make sure that partner is okay and taken care of, and I'm doing everything as efficiently as possible to help that person, etc., etc. But her first thing is to like go for the jugular and try and get me in trouble. I don't know why this is going on. I don't know what her thing is. I do know that in this last year that I was there, I was the first gaijin ever to get a raise at this place that I was at. It wasn't necessarily even a raise either. It was, if I took a day off, I would still get paid for it, which is a brand new thing. Like, I was the first person to ever get that. I was well regarded. I was constantly getting new students. The owner super liked me. He was constantly always talking me up and everything, and super stoked with my progress with the school. Before that, she had always been the shining example of the best teacher at that school. So I'm guessing that's the only thing I can ever think of. And this sounds so braggart-like. Oh, Scott, you're so arrogant. You think you're so badass when you walk in there. And mind you, this is all I can come up with. I mean, this is all I can really think of is... And I remember her telling me stories in the past of, like, she said one time her one friend had tried to take a leadership position, and that's when they really had a falling out, because she had cut her hair to look like my hair, she said, and suddenly tried to act like me, a leader. And I was just kind of like, whoa, what? Fuck? And I heard the other teachers, too, like, when they would quit, they would say, why are you so ijime? Why are you so ijime? And like her and the owner would laugh about that. But then if you think about it, ijime, if you don't know, means bully. Why are you such a bully? And so, I don't know, man. Like, I never felt like, at first, I never felt like this whole bully presence. Like, I feel like also maybe she kind of toned it down for the first year I was there so that I wouldn't be one of those teachers who just suddenly quit after 2 weeks. And then finally she couldn't hold back anymore in the third year. So there's that, okay? And then the final, how do I create this whole scene for you where I'm just like, finally like, dude, I've had fucking enough. So she's calling me out on all different types of stuff all through the day. The last thing that fucking drives me up the wall is I have a personal notebook that I keep notes in. And these notes are for anything like a video that I'm going to make, to a story I'm writing, to just anything. And I keep it for when I go on breaks. And I write down stuff in there for any ideas floating around in my head during the workday. I don't constantly stop work, pick up my notebook, and start writing a bunch of ideas down. You can't do that with little kids. It's dangerous. They could get hurt. But I keep this in my own... it's not necessarily my part of the shelf, but I consider it like where I put my backpack. So I just put it on top of my backpack. And I feel like that's my notebook, right? That's my backpack. Like, you don't go and touch stuff like that. I would never, like, go to a coworker's purse that is a woman and open it up and just start looking through and be like, oh, you got some crazy makeup in here, or whatever fucking million lotions you girls keep in your purse. I would see where she could be violently upset if I did such a thing. And I have enough common sense not to do that. So one day I come back from break and my notebook's missing. I'm all just like, oh dang, did my notebook fall off of my backpack or something? Because I have it up on kind of a high shelf so the kids can't touch it, grab it, or whatever. You know, they'll touch anything that's within arm's length. And she's like, no, I put it in the locker. And I'm all like, oh, you put it in my locker? She's like, no, I don't have a code to yours, so I put it in the company locker. So she's taken my notebook and put it in there. And I'm like, what, is there a reason? She's like, yes, you shouldn't be mixing up your notes with company notes. And like, there's like a set of binders like in a row, just stacked up, and there's room in between there where I shoved my backpack all the time. I mean, for 3 years almost now, and put my notebook on top of that. And she's like, and you shouldn't be writing these notes and putting them in here. These are just your crazy stories, and we don't need these at work. And I'm just like, wait, what? Like, I didn't file these away and consider this like part of the curriculum or something. This is like my own personal notebook that I really didn't ask anybody to touch, look at, or, you know, take part in while I'm at work. But I am going to bring it with me because I ride on the train. I had a 45-minute train ride. Sorry for bringing my own personal notebook. Like, I mean, it's not even like I bring out an iPad and I'm typing at work. I'm just handwritten. So I'm just like, what the fuck? So now she's like touching my personal shit. Also, then I go to check my cell phone, and mind you, my cell phone, it dies after 1 hour. The battery only lasts 1 hour. iPhone 5, it's a piece of shit, okay? Sorry, iPhone, but you fucking suck. You make garbage. And it would die after 1 hour. So I always kept it plugged in, which, I mean, okay, it made it like a landline, whatever. But she decides to unplug it and also put my phone in that locker. And I'm like, where's my charger and stuff? Where's my phone? She's like, yeah, I also put it in that locker. You shouldn't be using company electricity. Company electricity. Like, we are talking like, maybe for the whole day I used like 5 yen. Oh, I can't even do that, man. I'll take it out of my fucking paycheck if it's really a big problem. I'm up to here, man. I'm losing it. I'm just like, okay, so I'm just kind of like, something just finally snapped at me. I'm just like, nah, you know what, man? Fuck this. I had been thinking every day, like, I'd been coming in, like, super depressed, feeling horrible all the time, man. Like, everything I was doing was wrong. I was getting yelled at for everything. And I was just like, you know what's wrong here? You know what is really, really fucking wrong here? It's that I'm still fucking working here after taking all her shit. I was done. I was fucking done. I was like, okay, can you help me get my stuff out of the locker? And so finally she's like, okay, fine. And she gets it out. I put it in my backpack. And I'm like, yeah, don't touch my personal stuff anymore. I really appreciate if you wouldn't do that. And also, I noticed I never get to do the notebooks anymore. And she's like, oh, well, I mean, you know, like, no parent actually asked for that, but just kind of my own new policy. And now she's starting to, like, kind of fucking notice I'm starting to call her out on a couple things. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to unload it all before I decide what I'm going to do here. And so I'm like, yeah, also, are these the only decorations that are going to be on an undokai? Because these look bad. And she's like, oh, well, I mean, I don't know, maybe we'll need more stuff if the parents don't like these. And it's like, yeah, we're going to need more fucking shit. This looks like garbage. And then I was like, yeah, and also, did you ever hear any follow-up on that supposed quote-unquote scratch that had happened to that one kid? And she's like, oh, yeah, the mom said it was actually herself helping put on his backpack, and her own fingernails caught his back when she was putting it on. So it's it's not really a big deal anymore. I wouldn't really worry about it anymore. And I was like, you know what I would do if that situation would have happened? They had found scratches and blamed you for it? I would have defended you. That's what I would have done. I said that to her. No response, won't talk to me. She goes back down to like writing notebooks for the kids. She's all like, whatever. And so I said, you know what? I've had a good think about it. I pick my bag up. I'm like, I don't think it's a good idea I work this job anymore. And I walked the fuck out of there. Fucking goodbye. Fucking good fucking bye. Walked out of there that day. Took a big step out the door. Oh, felt so good. I felt free. Like, I felt like I don't even need to take the train home. I'm just going to fly. Okay, it felt great. It was the right thing to do. Within 2 days, I had a new job offer. And when I'm walking out, she's all like, you're not going to get a reference letter if you just walk out of this job. And I was like, yo, bitch, I didn't need a reference letter to get this. I didn't say bitch, okay. So I said, yo, I didn't need a reference letter to get this job, did I? And so, huh? Oh, no, you broke your train. Oh, my goodness. Okay, let me finish up. I got a good flow going here, okay? Let me finish up. Okay. I'll fix it. So, anyway, that's my story. And what's the moral to the story? If you work at a place, any place, and I'm not saying this is just a Japan thing. This can happen internationally. Where the person you are working with, who is supposedly, quote-unquote, your partner, turns on you and is doing stuff like talking behind your back, is constantly going to the boss and trying to get you in trouble, going to the parents and trying to get you in trouble, or whatever the situation is someone that they can get you in trouble with higher ups and corporate or whatever, it's time to quit. It's time to get out of there. If you can't ask for a change of a partner, which I couldn't have because everybody was partnered up and it's not going to change forever for me. I was going to forever work preschool. And she had been there for an ancient amount of time. And in Japan, it's not a meritocracy, okay? It is how long you've been there. That's what gets you leveled up in Japan, okay? You may be the best ever at your job when you walk in the door, and you still won't go high up as the person who's been there for a very long time. It's just the way it works. I'm serious. There's no such thing as meritocracy. No matter how great or good or super or powerful you are at your job, you won't go up faster than the person who has been there longer than you. And that was the situation. She had already been there 10 years. I'd only been there 3. She wasn't going to be fired anytime soon or changed or kicked out or whatever. If anything, if it would have come down to it, if we would have had a meeting, they'd have been like, well, Scott, you need to make some changes. Just whatever. Okay, so I was done. And that was it. And I walked out the door. And if you yourself ever experienced something the same, like you're getting that person who's constantly going behind your back, trying to dig up every little thing they can to get you in trouble, leafing through your personal shit, and starting to like hide different aspects of the class from you or whatever job, leave. Just leave. Life's not worth it. Life's not worth it. Okay? We spend anywhere from 8 hours to 12 hours a day working our jobs. That is a huge chunk of your life. A massive chunk to not be happy. And if you are not happy and it's something you can immediately erase from your life, do it. Anyway, my kids are getting pretty antsy. I better go take care of them. I hope you enjoyed this super mega long video. I'm so sorry if you're like, God damn, you took forever to get to the point. That's just the way I am. I apologize. Until next time, I am unrested with the questions you requested. This is JFEC. Have a good one.